in my latest YouTube hole,
yes,
have watched
the Lindy Hop.
Well, no, I watched Lindy Hop, which is great. Get into it. Lindy Hop World Championship in Washington, D.C. Look up on YouTube. It's a whole thing.
So you sent me a
You're like 3 in the morning.
At like 3 in the morning where you're like, hello, I have insomnia. Please watch this video. And I did. And it turns out that like I did not know what Lindy Hop is.
Yeah,
/ maybe don't know. Hey, this is Amrita and Andrew. We're writers on a podcast journey to find our way through freelance life. If you're thinking about taking the leap off the beaten path in any part of your life, our inexpert advice is don't think twice.
And we're live.
Hi.
Hi. Live from New Orleans again. Here we are in a new home.
Yet another new home.
In the 7th Ward, Treme area, for those who are familiar with the city.
What are your impressions of the neighborhood so far?
So this is our 3rd neighborhood, and I like its proximity to downtown.
Yeah.
It is
we're walkable to the French Quarter. I haven't actually tried to get quite that far yet.
So I walked all the way to the river. Not very far.
Okay.
I mean, 25-minute walk from here all the way to the Mississippi River. So pretty convenient. Not a lot of conveniences inside this neighborhood, though, which is pretty surprising. Like
a grocery store.
There's a
bodega.
Market.
There is a bodega on the sort of
a bodega that have you gone into it yet?
No, it looks really scary.
It has nothing in it.
Oh, it looks scary.
It has booze, soda.
Yeah, it looks like that type of place where it's like just like has like airport sized liquor and that's it.
And like
cigarettes,
can of beans.
Yeah.
But they did have sponges, which is what I needed.
Okay.
But bodegas in New Orleans, this is the second one that I've tried, don't carry ever, it seems, fruit of any kind, which shouldn't surprise me. But
well, I think we've extolled the virtues of New York bodegas before, but and it'll never be enough. But it's like the room of requirement. It's like literally anything that you need in that moment.
It's not that kind of. It's kind of a. It's kind of a gas station without the gas station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's I think a lot of cities have this thing where it's just like when you're in a neighborhood, and you're not gonna like find a thing to buy.
Yeah, but we're in the middle of the city.
Yeah, I know. It's weird though. It's unsettling.
And so where we are, which is kind of the dividing line between Treme, which is the classical black neighborhood. Mm-hmm. The neighborhood, how do I say? Historically black neighborhood, of which many, many prominent musicians and artists of all type really have come from. And of course, there's a lot of conversation these days about gentrification in the neighborhood and that sort of thing. And we're just right across the dividing line of the 7th Ward, which is another sort of working class, traditionally black neighborhood.
Yeah.
And our house is beautiful. The ceilings are so high. I feel like I live in a mansion.
Oh my gosh, I completely feel like I live in a mansion. It's probably 16-foot ceilings. You can probably hear them on the recording. Right. And even though the footprint of the house isn't that much bigger than the last place, it feels absolutely palatial. And also like everything being on the first floor. As it turns out, I'm a single floor kind of gal.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so the neighborhood is near a bunch of other neighborhoods, and do you know? So New Orleans people have this like dogged inability to consider north, south, east, west to a point where I feel like they're like people are shitting me. Mm-hmm. Anyway, city west of us, what neighborhood is that?
The neighborhood directly west of us is Treme.
Oh, on the other side of that. Central City?
I don't know.
Okay. I drove through whatever that neighborhood was because I drove to the wrong house yesterday after my workout, and that neighborhood is the first place that I've been in the city where I've been like, oh, this is a little scary.
Really?
Yeah. I had to slow down my car. I mean, you have to slow down your car a lot for potholes and for like things in the road here, and I actually saw somebody like. It looked like maybe selling another person a gun out of a pickup truck, and they were in the road. They were like in the middle of a side road, and he pulled the gun out of his car in like a kerchief, and was like showing it to the other guy, but I had to slow down a lot to get around them because they were in the road, and I was like, I'm not looking, I don't see you.
I think it's safe to say that you don't read as any sort of like undercover plainclothes cop
as long
in
as
your
I don't,
Subaru.
Good. Yeah, as long as I don't give you narc, that's good.
And you're like gold earrings and your Subaru. And
Subaru. Yeah, it reminds me of when our friend Rebecca and I were jogging in the park, and we went on these like side trails in Prospect Park where there were these guys who were
getting their fix early.
They're getting their fix, and so Rebecca wanted to ensure them that we weren't narcs. So she was like, whenever we would run past them, she'd be like, "Hi," like wave at them. And I was like, "Why do you think that's good?" She's like, "Do you think like a cop would do that? Probably not."
All right, well, that's a tactic. It's bold. Mm-hmm. But so we're in this new place, and we'll be here for a few months. But that brings me to the subject of housing, for which we recently qualified for the housing lottery in New York City, which is not affordable per se, as you might think of an affordable housing situation. It's basically housing that the developers get a tax break to then sort of mark down the rate of the apartment according to some scale that the city uses about a percentage of the local median income.
Yeah. So a certain percentage of the units in the building, and this building that we qualified for, it's building by building. It's a 26 unit building. They have to set aside 4 units. Only 4 for people of moderate means.
Yes.
Which means that you make 130% of the average, or of the median income, the area median income, or something like that.
Right. So you're making more than the median income.
You're making more than the median income. So when we say it is a housing lottery, it's not like a Section 8 situation, and it's not an affordable housing. It's quote unquote affordable for like the moderate earner.
Yeah. So this is a new thing for us, and we were required to submit every piece of financial data,
like any piece of identifying information about my money of my life.
I think we ended up with 41 documents.
Yeah.
Separate files.
Yeah.
And
I felt so like wary about trying to like prove that it was like okay for us to get it.
Well, that was the thing.
You know?
I felt like we were applying for something that we don't qualify for.
Yeah, it felt like if I was like, oh, like no, but like we deserve this. Like, but the thing is, we actually do qualify.
Well, we qualify. I mean, deserve is a whole different category of things.
I know, but like
we qualify just like anyone else who's applying would qualify.
Yeah.
Who gets it, who deserves it, is a different conversation.
Well, everybody deserves housing,
right?
But anyway, so a few things about that is like, so we would be roommates again in the city, but it does lock us into an apartment that we can actually afford, and then you just get to keep it. You get to keep a rent stabilized apartment.
You get to keep a rent stabilized apartment, which is fantastic. Now it's a 2-bedroom apartment, which is tiny.
Yeah.
It's a total of 550 square feet for 2 bedrooms.
Is it really? Did you look it up?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
or 565, something like that.
That's really small.
It's tiny.
That's really.
I mean, the
small.
living room is 8 feet wide.
So if
my brother laid down and if I laid down and put my hands up, I could touch wall to wall.
Yeah,
so, this isn't a palace, but
no. But it is. If we get it, it will be our palace.
It will be our palace.
I hope we do.
Our rent stabilized palace in a great location.
In a great location, yeah.
So right by Brooklyn Museum.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We'll see how the gears of the New York City Housing Authority work.
Yeah, we just submitted our application. Who knows how long it takes them to review?
41 documents or whatever.
Yeah, so time will tell.
How do you feel about Appending being back in New York?
I can't wait.
Okay.
Things are opening up. I imagine this summer is going to be really fun. Mm-hmm. The summer's going to be fun everywhere for people, for just because everything is opened up, and it's so here in New Orleans. I one day I was wearing my mask into places far after I was vaccinated. And then it was like a week or two ago, it's like everyone just woke up, and it's like every grocery store you can go into, every bar and restaurant, if you're vaccinated, of course, like just back to normal.
I know. It's weird. Like
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't take my mask places, so I'll go on my walk every day, and I might have to stop by the store to get a snack or some groceries or whatever, and I won't take my mask, and I'll think halfway there, oh, maybe I should have grabbed my mask in case I get there, and but I'm always able to go in.
It's been pretty free.
Yeah. So I'm.
Do you feel good about being back in New York?
Ready to get back to New York.
See, I wondered if you had. Yeah, I wonder if you had like deeper feelings about that, or like felt nervous about it, or worried about it, or not in a COVID sense, just like in a like getting back to our lives there. Like you just feel just unadulterated goodness about it.
No, I mean summertime is what it is, so I always want to like enjoy places beyond New York in the summertime. I mean, I love New York in the summertime too. And we are in New Orleans right now, which is really hot. I mean, I know it'll only get hotter, but it's like, it's only 90 degrees, but it's full wet 90.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a wet 90.
It's a wet 90. So, yeah, I that's just to say, like, it's summertime, and I'd like to go to the beach, of course, and, like, spend it on Fire Island or wherever. But, yeah, I'm ready to get back to the city. I'm ready to get back to the subways, and I know that there's been an uptick in crime on the subways, an uptick in crime generally in metropolitan areas across the country. But I'm ready to get back to it all.
Yeah, me too. I'm ready to get back. I can't even actually believe that we have our house here until September.
Yes.
At which point we'll have been away from the city for a year.
Yep.
I just was thinking that this morning, and I was like, I actually can't believe that.
Yeah. Hopefully no more. But, unless
we sell a show and we have to go oversee its production.
Yeah.
That feels right. But this is a question that we're talking about the other day, is like truly haunted me, which is you were like, if you couldn't go back to New York, if you were like,
this one really stumped you.
Yeah, it stumped me, and I was like, you were like,
if you couldn't go back to New York, what American city would you choose?
Yeah, and I've just been like really arrested by that question since, and I was like, oh well, I like it here. Like clearly, it's the place we've liked the most that we've been since we've been traveling around. Like, I like it here. Maybe I'd go back to Portland, where I'm from, and like, I haven't lived there since I was a kid. Like, and of course, it's changed so much there, and like there's good culture here. But then yesterday, I was driving to this boxing gym that's like in a strip mall on the West Bank, and I was like, oh fuck this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I could not live here. You have to get on this fucking highway to go and get on the bridge to just cross over to another neighborhood, just to go to a strip mall in a neighborhood to do this thing, and it's only 10 minutes away, but it feels like it's an eternity, and you have to merge like a million times. I was like, I hate this. I could never live here. But then when we went to go see jazz at that club this weekend, and I was like, oh yeah, this would be fine. I could make a life here. What was your answer?
So I posed the question without an answer myself, but I think I narrowed it down to Minneapolis because it's
which I've never been to.
It's a metropolitan. It's a city. I mean, it doesn't have the hustle and bustle of a New York by far, but it does have a lot of culture, like a large appreciation for culture in the city. It's a really nice city. It's a really cold city.
It's really cold. Can you walk there?
You can when the weather is nice. Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
And then of course they have miles and miles worth of tunnels in the winter time, which are elevated. On the second floor of buildings that
like
that connect
kind of
miles
things.
And miles of buildings. Yeah, public breezeways.
Yeah.
And they have a couple of metro lines, a couple of what are they called? Above ground, elevated. They're not elevated, just ground level.
Like a trolley type of thing?
Trains,
Oh, it's trains. They're trains.
Yeah, that you could easily live close enough to not have to use a car which is like one of my primary considerations.
So car free as car free as you could possibly be.
As car free as you could possibly be.
So Minneapolis and
as dense as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
Yeah, Minneapolis, I've never had a great experience with the city of Chicago, but that's not Chicago's fault. I mean, in the wintertime, it's Chicago's fault. Well, it's the lake's fault, but...
Actually, like, remember when we went to Chicago, and then the very first thing that happened was that man was, like, clinging to the dashboard of a car...
Oh, yeah.
In like a high-speed altercation on Lakeshore Drive. And then someone got stabbed when like we left a bar to like go get a snack and then come back to the bar. And then the time that we left to go get the snack, someone had been stabbed in the bar.
See? Not Chicago's fault.
Not quite. Those situational issues.
But
anyway.
At least it's a big enough city, and I think maybe I could find a neighborhood that suited me.
The thing is, I want to like Chicago. I want to like it. So I feel that the experience is just waiting for me, that I'm going to go there and I'm going to be like, oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, there's like, it's diverse and there's like interesting like food and stuff.
Right.
In theory.
And then, if I opened up the criteria and dropped the car or accepted the fact I would need a car, then cities like Detroit can make it on the list.
Yeah. Well, we loved Detroit.
Yeah. So.
I just wanted to, as an aside, I matched with a person on Tinder who had in their bio that he was like, I've been to like, hundreds of cities all over the world. Chicago is my number one. This is a person here in New Orleans. And so then I matched with him, and then I messaged, so explain to me what's good about Chicago. And then
Crickets.
And then he like unmatched me. I was like, okay, can't take a joke. Oof.
Yeah. I've heard many times that it's kind of a jinx to talk about things that you're like in the middle of doing.
Well, you've heard that, or you feel that?
I've heard that, and I'm wondering if I feel that. It's bad to talk about where you are and what you're doing.
Where does that come from? We have this housing application, and I haven't really told that many people because I'm like, oh, I don't want to jinx it, as if like my talking about it will have any bearing on what like the person at the realty office is like doing with their application. Or
So what is it about that? Like, why do we do that? Some people say, oh, it's like it's an energy thing, which these are sort of like woo-woo people.
I feel that about like when we're working on something that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to like say too much about it, because then it like, I don't want to like jinx it before we've written the thing that I feel really excited about writing, or I don't know. I don't know if it comes from just like purely a superstition point of view, or something about like if you tell somebody about something, then you're responsible for like filling them in about whether it happens or it doesn't happen.
People ask after
things. What is that such a bad thing? Like to have somebody ask you, like to have a reason to like follow up with you about something?
No.
Like, I think that the extension of that is to not like stick out my hand and be like, hi, I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Because like on some level, what makes me like embarrassed about like wanting to introduce myself as being a writer is that like I wouldn't want to like jinx it. We haven't sold a show yet. So,
yeah,
like I'm trying to be. So I think that's like the bad logical extension of like not wanting to talk about something that you're doing. Is that what you were thinking about? Like what brought this to mind for you?
Yeah. Well, just talking about anything, talking about like a housing application, talking about a show, talking about anything that like are trying to make happen or want to make happen or whatever. And like the idea that talking about those things sort of like robs you of your energy to like work towards them. There's some sort of psychology behind it. It might have been a Hidden Brain episode, actually. Some sort of like the idea of saying something out loud, and on some level of your brain, it's like you're experiencing what it would be to already have it. So then the motivation or the desire becomes less.
I couldn't disagree with that more, though, because aren't we also at the same time being taught that like we have to like envision our goals and manifest our like the things that we want?
Yes.
And so then part of that involves imagining how it would feel to already have that thing. And that's what gives you the confidence to know that you deserve it. Don't you think? Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Does this mean you have like exciting news that you're keeping under your hat?
No, I wish. No exciting news.
I was hoping I would get a little exclusive breaking moment.
No exciting news.
Okay.
No exciting news. But I was just, in general wondering, because there are a lot of creative people particularly who get a lot of mileage out of being mysterious in how they like are very strategic about what they say they're working on, what is what's happening. It's very evasive and non-specific, but also tactical and purposeful in like sharing these things. And I feel like you and I are not good at that at all.
No, but I actually idealize that, both as like a creative person, just in general. Like I really wish that I was more mysterious.
Yeah.
But I always just err on the side of, I think, just being like too goofy to be mysterious.
Yeah. So like there are so many people professionally that I've witnessed get very far on their mysterious, sort of captivating aura of like being an enigma for people. Yeah, and they will be a lot of times like kind of the content's not there.
Yes, but if you create the mystique around it, you have to write your own legend.
So I wonder if we need to, I mean, what if we were to embrace that quality?
Oh, what do you think that would look like, though?
I don't know. I don't know if we could really maintain it. I think it's all like so silly. It's like what I'm describing is like such a silly thing to have to think about. But there are times when I feel like I've gotten so much further by putting so less effort into things.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Like just, responding to people and like in very vague ways, and then like being offered jobs or being, or, on personal level, like.
Okay. This is true. And I've seen it happen for you. Like, I don't understand it though, because like I feel like if I gave a monosyllabic like response, people would be like, okay, well I guess this bitch doesn't want to talk to me. But it's like there's something.
Well, there might be gender.
Maybe there's some
going on there too.
Yeah, that's possible. Well, that's and in professional settings, I think that's definitely like you have a little bit more of a leeway to be curt with people.
Yeah.
Because it comes off as being authoritative because you're like tall and male and stuff. And we talked about that, but definitely like in a professional setting, sometimes haven't you found that when you're like applying for jobs, and I want to talk about this actually, but in our lifetimes, we've applied, each of us, probably hundreds and hundreds of jobs.
Right.
Like easily. And what I hit this point, and it was embarrassingly far into this, like into my life, into my professional life, where it was like, oh, it turns out that people respond to like the 3-sentence cover letter with way more frequency than the 3-paragraph cover letter where you try to like cover everything that you've done.
Yes.
You're just like, hello, I know how to do this. You'd be lucky to have me. I look forward to your response. Thanks.
Yeah.
And like those cover letters, it's like you're fighting them off.
Right.
It's really, that is so true.
When I left my full-time job and just wanted to find a part-time job, I took my resume and I looked at the part-time jobs I wanted to apply to, and I like scrubbed it and made it appeared as if I had done hardly
Scrubbed
anything.
what?
My resume.
Oh, your resume. Sorry. I missed that.
And just dropped off like nearly every job. And it was like,
so it just had like 2 things on there.
yes, and like 3 bullet points in 12-point font. Because it's like, well, I'm gonna, because I had used another resume and then gotten feedback. It's like, oh, like you're overqualified for this.
Oh God. Okay.
And I'd be like, oh well,
yeah,
I can be.
Yeah, I can be whatever you want, baby. I can be less. Is that what you said?
So that's what I did. I crafted this, and I got just interviews after interviews.
Okay.
Back this up for a minute.
Yeah.
So we are exiting a pandemic into a market, so says the news, so says the people in charge, that there is a labor shortage where people are leaving jobs and planning on leaving jobs because they have so many offers, and of course mom and pop places and people in the service industry can't find people to work. So you can just apply, you can just show up and be hired. Okay,
we've never, as 35-year-olds, because of like what we've lived through, we've never had a job market where like you can just apply for a job and get a job.
I know. So I wonder as like a generation if we're like, people are going to be so confused. Like send in a resume and then people contact them. Like, wait, what?
What? Is this how it works? You just send in a resume?
Is this a scam?
You just send in a resume and then you just get a call and you get interviewed? Like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, but
it can't be that easy.
We've both had our fair share, and our friends as well of applying to hundreds of things. And when we entered the job market, 2008, it was like a disaster. And the looking back, and I remember this clearly, the things I was pining for,
what were you
professionally.
Pining for? What were you pining for?
I was pining for an administrative assistant job anywhere, doing anything. Okay. I would work for like the New York City Housing Authority, filing paperwork if they would hire me, which they wouldn't.
Aside. Okay. Oh yeah. No, what I wanted to ask you though is like, so out of all the jobs you've applied for, what do you think your toughest rejection was? Can you think of something that was like particularly bad?
I'll have to think about it. I know that I went on a couple of multi-stage interviews.
Yes. That
I was disappointed not to get, but
I have been ghosted after 3 to 4 rounds.
Me too.
Ghosted. Like not even like, sorry, thanks for your application, goodbye.
No.
Not even a note.
That happened to me when I applied to produce the Fest, and I went to 3 in-person.
Did you go to like a site visit or something?
Yes, 3 in-person interviews. So I got on a train and went places 3 times. Didn't hear from them after that.
You didn't hear from them? You never got a rejection from them?
No. So
that is
fuck
so
them. Fuck
rude.
you, New York. That's like so. It's so rude.
That's so rude. I went on. Okay, so I've had multiple things where I thought I knocked it out of the park, and then never heard from them again. And one time I had to take a this was for like a development job. Art Center. I'm not afraid to name names. And then I went to go take they had me take an exam on my 3rd interview.
Yep.
And the exam was basically alphabetizing people's last names to put them in a database. So they're like, we find like it's really good to just test people on their skill level. They're a facility with the database. and how quickly they can pick things up. So it was a 2-hour exam
Yep.
where I was basically putting things in alphabetical order and correcting addresses on a spreadsheet, that sort of thing, like putting them into the format that they wanted to. So basically they got 2 hours of free labor out of me. And I never heard from them again. Maybe that's all they needed. Maybe they posted the whole job thing because they were just like, we just need people to come in for a couple hours at a time and think that they're taking an exam.
I interviewed 3 times at the American Council. Yeah, we're naming names.
That's amazing.
This was when I was looking for a part-time job, and it was a matter of filing things that came in like electronically. It's like a database and like managing their council submissions for whatever the goddamn thing they submit. I don't know, whatever. I remember the 3 interviews, didn't hear back from them. Like, maybe it was because they were asking me questions that was like, maybe my face gave it away, where it was like, are you really asking me if I can like FedEx something? Like, is that
sure I can figure it out?
Because they were like, like we have like a lot of things that need to like move, like a lot of mailing.
Yeah, but I don't think it's fair to ghost someone based on their face.
If you have me commute down, we have an hour-long interview twice, and then I have a Zoom for, this was years ago, but Google Hangout for the people who work remotely across the country, and then I never hear from you again.
Yeah. No, okay. I've had it. So I keep it, the more we're talking about this. Okay, that's happened to me at the museum. Had 2 in-person interviews, and the second time it turned out we had like a mutual friend, so we like talked about the person, and we're like, oh my god, isn't she so funny? Whatever. And so it was like so friendly. So I was like, well, of course this person's gonna get back to me because we have a mutual friend. Ghosted. Also, I at National. I got to like quote unquote final round. It was like me and one other person. I met the president of their board. And then never heard from them again. Never heard from them again. Guess what all of these places have in common?
What?
They now send me bi-monthly solicitation emails to ask whether I wanted to donate to their organization. So they ghosted me, but they remembered me enough to put my email on their mailing list.
Right. Okay. Yep. I've also been recommended for jobs and gone on interview, and I can say I have gotten jobs from people that I've known and worked with before, but by and large, all the big jobs I've gotten have been cold interviews.
Yeah. That you just like applied to off the internet and then got them. Yeah.
Which is means that I've applied to many things.
Yeah, I try to explain to people the scale of this, because when I tell you that I've been rejected from like over 500 jobs in my life, it is not a joke. I mean, that's probably a moderate like estimation. Yeah, I think that's like the very like millennial viewpoint to have. But I'm wondering what our experience is going to be like.
I know, because the addendum. So I'll say what the easiest time I had finding a job when I was looking for a part-time job, I got offered multiple offers off that resume that had nothing on it. And when I would go, and this kind of goes back to my point, it's like I put less effort. I would go to the interviews and say exactly what I wanted. I am here for the paycheck. I just want to like clock in, clock out.
Yeah, and that's worked well.
And people are like, oh yeah, of course. Great. Do you want this job? Meanwhile, you go in somewhere else and be like, oh, so I've done this research. I have these questions. Like, this is what I really like about what you do. And they're like, no, thank you.
Yeah. That's such a bad like feedback for us to like internalize, that like actually do nothing and care about nothing, and all the things will be given to you.
I reject all this stuff you read online about, from my own experience and for friends around me. I do, seriously.
Okay, tell me.
Seriously, I think that, first of all, I think it's rude for there to be applications that require essay questions and other things. It's like, you're not paying me. And like,
this is free labor.
The whole advent of the resume and the cover letter is for me to show you who I am, and then you decide if you want to meet me. I'm not going to fill out these things. Now they have you pre-record these like interview questions that you answer. Oh God. It's like, this is lunacy.
It's lunacy.
I don't think you should spend a long time investigating someone's company. I think it's like, I've been on interviews, and I have researched a lot of things, and when people want you to tell them about how great they are, like, you're never actually going to get the job. My advice, if you're looking for a job, is
okay, I can tell there's about to be some shit. Okay.
What? Tailor your resume and have a 3 to 5 sentence cover letter.
Yes.
That does not reinvent the wheel. That says at the bat, like, I'm perfect for this position. Mm-hmm. You would be happy to have me because I'm perfect. Talk soon. And then if you really want the position, wait at least a day and a half to 2 days to respond to their invite for the interview.
Oh my God. That's like, you're like that book, like the rules where it's like,
and honestly, the thing that I think you and I need to be better at in this sort of topic, and more broadly than just interviews, is like, we make things really easy on people. I'm serious.
Yeah, okay.
And I've seen it function inside organizations where there are people who are applying. They kind of like advocate for themselves and like what's going to work for them. Yeah. They're never dinged for that. And often there's some level, I think, in like subconsciously, where people see that as like a power move.
Yeah. So you're saying, like, if I get an interview and they're like, oh, actually, can you do 10:30? And I just say no.
I say, one, never say, oh, I can do any time. Mm-hmm. Always give a window. I can do 10:30 to noon, or I can do 4 to 4:45. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, let's look at Thursday.
Yeah.
And then if they ask, come back for something, like, really consider if it works or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to play games, but I'm just saying.
I hate to play games, but
this is some honest advice.
I'm a good player.
This is some honest advice.
Yeah. I've been thinking the last couple of days about something that I just wanted to tell you that I really appreciate about white culture.
Oh, okay. Go for it. I mean, I feel like I don't know how to take a compliment from white culture. I don't know where to.
You're gonna be able to.
I don't know what comment box to drop it in.
You're gonna be able to take this one. I'll tell you why. Something I appreciate about white culture is leaving butter outside of the fridge.
Well, that's
white culture. That's white culture.
That is necessary.
See, this is how white culture takes a compliment. Oh, the thing that you're giving me a compliment about, that's just necessary. That's just a fact. That's just like common sense.
Yeah, and I'll say to that, my mother keeps 2 sticks out because
you wouldn't want to be caught out.
You wouldn't want to be caught out in the rain. Exactly. She keeps 2 sticks out.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Because what happens if you run out of a stick?
Then you have to get a cold stick.
Yes.
And you wouldn't want to have to get a cold stick.
So better to have 2 sticks.
OMG. Okay, this is white culture, and I love it. Like, so I will remind you, if you've forgotten, that on one occasion of having a shared vacation home, at one such vacation home, there was a situation where butter kept getting left out, and then butter kept getting put back in the fridge. So certain people were leaving the butter out, and then certain people were putting no. It wasn't just you. And certain people were putting the butter back in the fridge. It was a large group scenario in this vacation home, and I just remember this so vividly because it was like it came to a head at a certain point where like it was like, who keeps putting the fucking butter back in the fridge? and it was like.
Half the people were
like, who keeps leaving the fucking butter out like a monster? And then we had this like incredible realization that it was like all the people of color that were there kept trying to put the butter back in the fridge because they were like, who leaves butter out?
And all of us white people were like,
it's a dairy product. And then all the white people were like, who just wants to spread cold butter on their toast?
What monster wants to sit there and fight with their toast?
Fight with their toast.
Well, let me tell you about brown people, if that's the thing. Indian people, particularly. Your family.
Tell me. Tell me about it.
Your mother and father, and to a certain extent, the way your sister like runs her household, which has to do with how she was raised. Like, it is really nice and familial to eat with them because in my house, you sit down and you have a meal, and typically the woman has slaved over the meal, and men have reluctantly make their way to the dinner table for some reason, as if they don't want to eat.
Right.
Everyone, and that includes the grandchildren and the children and
their
husband to like, come and eat. It's ready. It's
come
hot.
And eat. And everyone's
it's
cold.
hot. And cornboard is a very
temperature sensitive
thing, and that is what we had at every meal.
Both
sides of the family. And like, when the cake of cornbread is done, that's when dinner is ready and you need to come to the table. But she not only had to cook it, but then had to come and like corral everyone, right? Your family, it's like the food is ready, and there are some food items that are made pretty fresh and are enjoyed fresh.
Yes. It's a rolling basis.
It is a very rolling basis, whereby if you were to come in there, it's like, are we eating dinner, or is like that person eating a snack right now, and then this other person just like sitting outside, and like someone else is reading a book, and like, what is happening? And so
you understand now how like the chaos informs my worldview. Like, chaos is a tool for me.
But it's real. But at the same time, everyone is made sure that everyone else is eaten. So it's like, no one is forgotten.
No, never.
But
and there's always
the eating is not happening simultaneously.
No, almost never. Indian food is tough that way, and there is a sexism component to it, because you said something about women sleeping over.
Yeah.
It just so happens that in my home, my dad is like the primary cook, not always, but there's a certain component of Indian food that is structured in a sexist way, actually, because like, whether you're North Indian, you're making chapatis or whatever, those have to be made like sort of individually and fresh and hot, and like meaning the woman has to keep doing it until everybody else is done, and then the person who's cooking, who's usually the matriarch of family or the mom or whatever, gets to eat last. But there are also like, it's like rolling. And this is something that like my friends in high school used to think was so funny. Like, oh, I have to drop off this thing, I'm gonna do it at 4 o'clock, or I'm gonna do it at 10 p.m. And it's like, oh shit, there's never not a time when I show up and it's like, not, oh, we're just having dinner, we're just sitting down to dinner. For people who don't know about it, there is this free television service called Pluto TV that gives you access to all these classic sitcoms. So we've been trying to like dive into some whatever's available on the
whatever's there.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, it's not like
it's not a
huge catalog, and they don't have like, they don't have every season of every show. And they don't always have the first season of things, but they do have a fair amount of 90s sitcoms that we all remember, but probably didn't watch.
So what's your general impression on watching some of these shows? Okay,
well, we should say what we watched, maybe.
Okay. We can go through them. We can give impressions on everyone.
But the ones we watched this past week that I have written are Grace Under Fire, Sybil, Spin City.
Oh, I forgot about Spin City. Third Rock from the Sun.
Married with Children.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, we did a whole bunch, didn't we?
And The PJs. Which aired in 1999, so it's right on the cusp.
And then I previously watched the pilot of 90210.
Right. So, What did I notice about the sitcoms, particularly everything we watch for sitcoms, other than 90210? The thing I noticed about the sitcoms were that, except for one, and we'll get to it, they were not that funny, nor did many of them have a plot.
A plot. Yeah, in a word, there was no plot.
So, the conventional wisdom now is like, you think about writing something, you think about writing a story with characters. But these series, all of which ran for multiple seasons, seemed to start with a pilot.
Multiple seasons, like enough to get syndicated.
Yeah.
So at least 100 or more episodes.
It seemed to start with a pilot that does nothing but just introduce you to the character. So that was the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed was the popularity of gay jokes in the 90s.
I was going to say that.
Every single one of these pilots. In fact, Spin City's A plot revolves around making a straight man pretend he's gay.
Oh, yes. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was so bad. And then there's a lot of like limp wrist jokes,
right.
And like... And also this like sort of weird fantasy that like we live in a world in which like gay people were so like rare that they would be looking around an office full of people and be like, anybody here gay? Anyone? So, okay, oh my God, that was the main thing that I was just like kind of shocked by, because it's not that long ago, and like how just sort of like lazy the punchlines are too. So just like the punchline is just like pointing at something and being like, that's gay, and then the laugh track cues, and you're like, where was the joke?
Yeah, in Sybil, one of her daughters on the show says, if you don't let me date this older boy, like, I'm going to be a lesbian. And then that becomes like a runner through the show.
And that was a joke, though. That was supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, well, if you don't let me do that, I'm going to be a lesbian. And then it was like, ha, 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 ha.
Commercial break. And then it comes back and a couple more times.
So it's either that, and then the other thing is just like this persistent joke about how like women are like crazy and irrational and emotional and just written in the most outlandish ways. Like,
yes,
I never really thought that it would be like so obvious what the demographic was of the writer's room, because like sometimes you would feel like watching a modern show you might not know.
Right.
It is so clear that there were no women in any of these writers' rooms.
Oh, the women are written. I've never witnessed a person who went through like a person who's not on something, who goes through such emotional swings in a matter of like a minute and a half.
It's as though they're writing for aliens when it's like a female character. It's like, oh well, we don't have to worry about them being like rational or having like any like independently formed needs and desires. They can just be like total loose cannon weirdos, because that's
and throughout all of these shows,
and make terrible demands on their men.
Whenever there was it seemed like a space where they needed a joke and they didn't need to advance the plot, which they barely had or didn't have, it always was a lady joke, right?
Or things that were just like casually like you wouldn't even know that it was a joke unless it was like the laugh track. It was something about how like this was in Grace Under Fire. Her like ex-husband, they allude to him being like abusive, and then they keep making jokes about it. It was like, he had a mean right hook. Like, what?
Yeah, I feel like every episode had a gay joke, at least one. Most of them had more than one. Had some sort of something about what time of the month a woman is on, or women, or you got Yeah. Of course, we watch Married with Children, which the whole basis of the show is for Al Bundy to be a misogynist.
That was atrocious. That pilot was atrociously bad. I mean,
well, what confuses me is that because of course we're looking up all these shows as we're watching to see how long they ran, and we remember all of them, but just sort of refreshing our memories. And Married with Children is one where the writers want to talk a lot about how they're examining these sort of social dynamics in America and gender dynamics,
and then they're supposed to be poor, like they're like,
yeah. And I don't think that it's examining something just to put it on television. Because none of it was clever. Mm-hmm. None of it was insightful. None of it, there was no wink and nod. It was actually just gross and unfunny.
Yeah, so I met a woman who was we were just chatting about TV, and I was like, this came up in conversation about these pilots, and she was like, oh, well, I think I think that was like, it was obviously regressive and bad and whatever, but it was like sort of necessary to like move the needle or whatever. And I just like, I don't know if I agree with that. I guess I don't really have a counter argument to it, that it was like the reason that there were so many like cheap gay jokes in 90s sitcoms is because that was like a time where people were like starting to come out a lot more visibly, and like it was just like more part of the like popular imagination, so it felt like more edgy to make reference to it. And I don't know, I mean, maybe there's some truth to that it's like it's just coming into the like public conversation, but I think it was just that it was just a cheap and easy joke for a writer's room full of straight white guys to do, personally. But
so something else that I noticed about several of these was, particularly Grace Under Fire and Sybil, which are both made by Chuck Lorre, who has made many shows, even today. Things are like on CBS and whatnot. Well, Sybil and Grace Under Fire are the exact same show. Mm-hmm. They're a single woman with kids who on the pilot episode
goes on a date for the first time.
Because the date for the first time is a very convenient pilot solution, because then you have your main character tell a person they've just met everything about themselves, so then the audience learns.
Tell me about yourself.
Like, I have 2 kids and I'm a working actress and I'm old and I fear that I'm going to die alone. It's like, oh, this is what this show's about. Okay.
All right. We've set that up. Yeah. And it's just really funny because it's like we're in our own work like trying so hard to like construct plot and working so hard to make plot a thing, and then we're watching all these sitcoms where it's like you go through the whole half hour and then you're like, what actually happened?
If I had to describe it, this is how I would describe a 90s comedy. Open up to the house that you're going to see for the next 100 episodes. Woman comes in from stage left, moving fast to do something, picking up something or putting down something. Then, inexplicably, because this never happens in real life, somebody pokes their head not through the door but through a window, because apparently no one in sitcom land has bushes or anything, so there's always a friend who sticks their head through a window, and then there's some of a conversation, and then then they've set up whatever the episode's going to be, which is usually nothing more than like, I'm here.
Was there something different about the way that we like watched, like told stories or something like that, or wanted to like see stories, or I wonder if, or maybe there was just a lower standard for content because all you had what was on your 3 networks.
Well,
ABC,
they were still
NBC,
testing
CBS.
a lot of things, so it wasn't like these were the only pilots getting made. These are the only ones that were people were watching.
Yeah. Wow.
So we didn't have social media at all. We didn't have the internet for half of the 90s, or at least a lot of people didn't. And I think the pilots are so boring, and when we look at it for plot and how we might look at it today. But like I was telling you while we were watching it, I think, first of all, it's nice to see something on television that looks pretty. So like the sets are like so 90s, like the houses are so interesting, even if it's Married with Children and the set is supposed to be like a working class shabby house, it's still interesting to look at. And then you're like, oh, I'm not the only shabby house in the world.
Right.
So
well,
like,
and these are all, of course, these are multicam shows, which means that they have like sort of a fixed set. They're like shot from multiple angles at the same time. It's not like this more like realistic thing where we're moving through real spaces. It's like clearly it's a dollhouse set, where there's just like.
So I wonder if it was a matter of people just enjoying seeing like what they could identify with what they were watching on some level, and all that. That's all it was.
Yeah. And in all this, I know, as an aside, obviously I know that like a pilot is not. Ironically, even though the pilot is supposed to be the thing that is like the cardinal example of what that show is about, it rarely ever is actually serves that function. It's
right.
like you want to get the best episode of something, you're never going to watch the pilot. Sometime in season 3 probably.
Yeah, once everyone understands their characters and the
Everything's
writers
gelled together.
understand how to play off of everybody and
the
set
writers
it all
are
up.
now like writing for the actors instead of just like for abstract.
I think most of us watching TV, as we did before we could do it on demand, came to like the shows that we watched on reruns, never watching the first episode first. I mean, I didn't watch the Golden Girls pilot.
Right.
I didn't sit down. I started in season 5, episode 13.
Right.
And then.
Well, even if it was something that was like currently on the air, you started watching it because like you either like heard it was good or like someone told you to watch it or something, but it was never like,
especially
I'm
sitcoms.
gonna like sit down and tune into this brand new show.
Yeah, for sitcoms, you like jump in and it's like it makes me wonder. It makes me think like what we think we need to establish in a pilot. Do we even need a pilot at all? Do you even need a pilot at all? Because if you watch a good sitcom, a good half-hour sitcom, seasons in, to your point,
are you not like drawn
you're not
in?
confused.
Right.
I think when we're telling stories, we probably don't have enough faith in the people who are watching.
I 100% agree, and I relate to this in the draft of the pilot that we're writing right now, which is a sitcom. It's a serial sitcom, so it's a little bit different, but it like I'm totally having that thing where I really just want to explain to people, like as though they're not going to be able to figure it out. Like I want to explain exactly, so I'm making that pilot mistake, but what you're saying is like the characterization is like just let people have it. And
Yeah.
So
those are my observations about pilots from the 90s.
I will say that I really enjoyed. I know you didn't watch 90210. I really enjoyed 90210, and which also breaks a lot of the rules. It was not a hit. That show was not a hit on its first season, and it used a marketing trick to like air over the summer where no other shows were airing.
This is really fascinating.
Yeah, so that's how they made it like a cultural phenomenon, was that nobody watched its first season.
Yeah.
Then they aired it during like summer hiatus, so there was nothing else to watch. And then everybody got hooked, and then they came back for their like full second season. And by that point, it was like the biggest show on television. So the pilot really wasn't like I'm sure not widely watched at the time. Although it did run until the year like 2003 or something shocking, right?
Yeah, for a very it ran for 10 years. No, it ran, I think,
2000. So 2000. It was 1990
to
2000. Yeah, so we were in high school when that show went off the air, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. I mean, they
True
were...
90s show. Every year of the 90s it was on the air.
Yeah. So, wait, did you ever go for, like, teen dramas, though?
No.
So you never watched Dawson's Creek?
No.
You never watched... Okay.
No, the only dramas I watched was with my mom. We watched Charmed together.
Charmed, yeah. Uh-huh. So that was really your drama as a kid.
I mean, it was just a Monster of the Week thing that my mom and I like to watch.
I think that's cute. I think that's a cute one. So we're doing a Sunday night show, playing some music for 2 hours and just...
Yeah, Sundays from 6 to 8, we're DJing 2 hours worth of music. It's great. It's fun to put together a playlist. It's fun to sit down and do it live.
Like, mixtapes are kind of a lost art, but making the playlist and then also like having something to say about the songs is really
But the songs, about the artists, it's
another brick in our multimedia empire.
Yeah. You can listen to it every Sunday from 6 to 8 Eastern on EM. That's E as in Sheila E. M as in Eminem dash radio. em-radio.com.
E as in Sheila E. Brilliant.
So yeah, I'm excited about it.
We write, curate, and produce as VJ and Stevens, and you can subscribe to Don't Think Twice anywhere you listen to podcasts. Normally, we'd be working on a whole slate of live events in New York City and across North America, but pandemic. We're currently writing and living nomadically, pitching our scripted works for television. You can learn more about us at vjandstevens.com. That's VIJAY and Stevens with a PH. We're at VJ and Stevens on Instagram, and our assistant Susan is still learning how to tweet at Memos from Susan.